Before we continue, don't forget to recommend my video on social media and click the subscribe button to stay updated on more comic book content like this, which helps support small content creators like me. The city sprawls as a hub of futuristic science and ancient tradition, with lab-grown gardens, lava-fueled power plants, and skyscraper-sized supercapacitors crafted entirely from sunstone crystal. Within these cities, the clerics of the Science League, Krypton's elite ruling class, wielded the energies of the Red Sun and Krypton itself to fuel their relentless drive for advancement at any cost. Kal-El's parents did not belong to this ruling class. In this universe, they are skilled laborers within the Labor Guild, governed by a far stricter caste system and a more authoritarian regime than ever depicted. Lara was placed in the Labor Guild after writing a critical essay as a child, while Jor-El lost his status when he attempted to expose Krypton's self-destructive path. Today, Jor-El and Lara continue their fight, resisting the oppressive government and striving to save lives where possible, even as the class gap widens and Krypton's environmental crisis worsens. Any dissent against the caste system is crushed swiftly, with those who question the norm condemned to life in the Labor Guild, where the iconic S-Shield now serves as the workers' emblem rather than the House of Els. Jor-El and Lara Lorvan, who once dreamed of becoming scientists, now work here as a mining engineer and a mechanic, respectively. It's in this role that Jor-El, mocked and dismissed by the Science League for his environmental concerns, uncovers the looming instability threatening Krypton's future. That instability is his homeworld's inner decay, a grim foreshadowing of Krypton's inevitable demise. Years later, we find a grown Kal-El with no home, no fortress, and no family, but still standing up as a champion for the oppressed. His chief adversary is a corporation named Lazarus, which uses a private force of Peacemakers to keep its workforce in line. Here, we learn that Lazarus is forcing these laborers to continue mining diamonds despite encountering a massive asbestos deposit. The forced mining unleashed a storm of carcinogenic particles that settled in the areas where workers' families lived. Although they tried to flee, the Peacemakers forced them back to work at gunpoint. As the workers return to the mine, they discover that the ore has already been mined and crushed. A stash of diamonds awaits, ready to be hauled to the surface. The air is also free from asbestos particles. Many believe it's nothing short of a miracle. We flash back to the previous night when carcinogenic dust fell over the city like snow. In this moment, a miner encounters Kal-El. The miner explains to Kal-El that they are celebrating tonight, aware that tomorrow they'll face a blizzard of carcinogens. He invites Kal-El to join them, but Kal-El replies that he has seen many places where industries thrive on human misery. He then tells the miner that he has to leave as there's more work awaiting him. Back in the present, the Peacemakers start roughing up the miners, demanding to know who helped them extract the diamonds. We learn that the Peacemakers have also pinpointed Kal-El's location among the villagers. Still not fully recharged, Kal-El knows he should have moved on by now, on to the next mine or corporate-controlled sweatshop. His AI alerts him to the imminent danger. The Peacemakers prepare to shoot, but Kal-El swiftly disarms them with decisive force. He declares that he's finished with running as a fugitive. He's ready to stand his ground and fight. His AI alerts him that the Peacemakers' weapons are not of this galaxy. When he asks if the Peacemakers will survive his blows, the AI confirms that they will. Despite the AI's warning that the workers on this planet will never truly be safe, Kal-El pledges to protect them. As he urges the workers to leave, a sudden blast of energy strikes him. The blast is from a Reaper drone. We learn that the director of Lazarus Command has ordered the drone to cease fire, as they want Kal-El captured alive. In this frame, we also see that his suit might actually be a living armor that shields him. We glimpse an image of Kal-El, apparently gathering a tremendous amount of energy, and his AI warns him against making such a drastic move. He unleashes an overwhelming wave of heat at the Peacemakers. Then, afterwards, he instructs his AI to shut him down. The next frame shows decimated Peacemakers lying scattered with a drained Kal-El on his knees. His AI advises the last member of the House of El to retreat into the shadows, warning that some worlds cannot be saved from themselves. As more Peacemakers arrive, Kal-El considers his AI's advice and agrees, but before he can leave, he is restrained with handcuffs. We learn that Agent Lois Lane is the one taking him into custody. She warns him that if he moves, she will burn his face off. When we last saw the Man of Steel in Absolute Superman issue 1, the final moments of Krypton unfolded in vivid detail, spotlighting the fall of a visionary scientist named Jor-El. Banished to the working class for challenging the elite scientist class, he dared to speak out against their dismissal of Krypton's ecological collapse. How far will the echoes of his defiance reach into the legacy of his son, Kal-El? Fast forward to the present day. Kal-El moves in secrecy, flitting from place to place as he shields exploited laborers from the iron grip of the Lazarus Corporation. But the issue reached a tense cliffhanger when a Lazarus strike team closed in on Kal-El, led by none other than Officer Lois Lane. Absolute Superman issue 2 rewinds the clock 6 years before this moment of confrontation. On Krypton, we see a teacher conducting a virtual classroom session, walking among students and commending their reports. However, the teacher is stunned when she discovers that young Kal-El submitted a handwritten report, rejecting the use of the generative AI that pulls exclusively from the Science League's knowledge vaults. Back in the present, the narrative snaps to a gripping scene. Kal-El is shackled to Lois Lane with cuffs he can't immediately break. She doesn't flinch as she commands him to kneel, surrounded by Peacemakers and Lazarus soldiers, all with weapons trained on him. Before we continue, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and recommend it on social media, which helps small content creators like me. To drive her point home, while Kal-El attempts to unlock the cuffs with measured calm, Lois shoots him in the face without hesitation. In a fiery response, Sol, Kal's sentient suit, unleashes a plasma tentacle to work on the restraints, but the process will take precious time. The soldiers, misinterpreting Kal-El's actions and words as a threat to Lois, are given the green light to fire, even if it means sacrificing her in the process. In a swift response, Sol generates a cape-like barrier made of Kryptonian dust, shielding them both from the oncoming barrage. As Kal-El debates with Sol about dismantling the cuffs and escaping the Peacemakers, Lois interrupts by shooting him in the face once more. She promises that surrendering would end the chaos, but Kal and Sol clearly have other plans. Without warning, Kal-El launches into a towering leap, dragging a stunned Lois with him, the cuffs still binding them and his cape keeping them aloft. However, their flight is cut short by a helicopter that manages to strike them with a missile mid-air, sending both crashing into a small village church. Amid the wreckage, Kal-El hoists Lois and starts moving her to safety, only for her to shoot him in the face yet again, as she desperately tries to re-establish contact with her team. The pair engage in a fiery argument over Lazarus Corp's motives and Kal-El's secretive past, but their exchange is abruptly silenced by a missile exploding dangerously close. This close call reinforces Kal's warning to Lois. Lazarus Corp has no regard for anyone, not even her. Kal-El taps into his raw power, lifting a nearby car and hurling it with precision at the helicopter, sending it crashing into a nearby building. He and Lois then pivot to a search and rescue operation as the village is rapidly overtaken by a fast-spreading fire. Sol extends the dust cape to shield nearby villagers, while Kal-El guides them toward safety. Using his cape again, he applies the Kryptonian dust to heal their injuries and employs his frost breath to extinguish the flames. Meanwhile, Lois briefly considers drawing her gun to restrain him, but she hesitates and lowers it. The previous sequences highlight several key aspects of the story, starting with Superman's extraordinary suit. Its unique abilities, including the power to communicate exclusively with Superman, introduce an exhilarating sci-fi twist to his character. Another highlight is Superman's unwavering heroism, as he rescues the villagers and begins to dismantle Lois's perception of him as a threat to humanity. Back to the story, Sol manages to deactivate the handcuffs binding Kal-El and Lois. As Lois urges him to stay, Kal-El leaps away with such force that the surrounding debris rises in his wake. During the aftermath of their rescue mission, Lois narrates her after-action report to the Brainiac AI, vividly detailing Kal's demeanor, appearance, and even his scent with surprisingly poetic language. This Lois is possibly the most evocative version of Lois Lane we've ever seen. The issue wraps up with Lois growing increasingly exasperated by the Brainiac AI's clinical interpretation of her report, sparking within her a renewed passion for writing. Next, we're treated to a flashback of Kal's parents designing the suit that Kal now wears, a hybrid of a spacesuit and rocket ship. Their quiet concern over Krypton's dwindling lifespan contrasts with the scene of a young Kal playing joyfully with his dog, blissfully unaware of the looming catastrophe. Meanwhile, back in the present, the Peacemakers prepare to unleash their fury on the local villagers in what may become a chilling massacre. This installment enriches Superman's mythos by intertwining a fresh perspective on his Kryptonian heritage with an inventive portrayal of Lois Lane, balancing gripping action with methodical world-building. Although the true villain remains hidden, the issue masterfully sets up a thrilling narrative arc, supported by stunning visuals and a revitalized take on this legendary hero. How did a humble guild Kryptonian peon named Kal-El rise to the rank of absolute Superman? The answer lies in his parents' secret plan that shattered all expectations. The absolute universe manages to feel both comfortingly familiar and refreshingly innovative. Take, for example, Superman's origin in Absolute Superman, which still hinges on Krypton's destruction, as illustrated in this issue, Absolute Superman 3. By reimagining Krypton's demise, writer Jason Aaron crafts a Superman with a heightened awareness of class inequality. The third installment dedicates itself almost entirely to Krypton, aside from a brief scene set 6 years before Superman's present-day heroics on Earth. This focus lets us witness a young Kal-El during the final days of his home planet, adding excitement to the idea of a Superman who carries vivid memories of his homeworld and has parents unafraid to stand against authority. The story begins by introducing a young Superman, content to skip the rigorous science academy to immerse himself in nature. His connection to nature stems from the bond he shares with his parents, who take him on a camping adventure in a wilderness, a stunning landscape of towering crystals and purple desert-like terrain. Aaron skillfully illustrates Superman's rebellious spirit, showing how it mirrors his parents' courage and independent streak. The familial dynamic between Jor-El, Lara-El, and Kal-El is portrayed as close-knit and loving, emphasizing the unique twist of Darkseid's absolute universe, where Kal-El grows up under the care of both biological parents. This supportive upbringing adds emotional depth, making young Kal-El's exploration of Krypton's troubled capital city an even more compelling moment in his journey. Kal-El's journey from an innocent student to uncovering a groundbreaking truth while working on a school report added depth to the planet's unfolding mystery. The story delves into the terrifying realization that Krypton's destruction was preceded by numerous warning signs that could have saved its people. Kal-El's findings revealed a shocking conspiracy surrounding the planet's explosion, highlighting a deliberate effort to obscure the truth. The Science League dismissed the deadly kryptonite-like vapors as harmless natural gas leaks, despite their lethal effects on people, animals, and the environment. This portrayal further solidifies the Science League as a corrupt authoritarian regime, prioritizing the protection of the elite over the welfare of the masses, even with their advanced technology. While Kal-El remained central to the narrative, it was Lara-El, his mother, who stole the spotlight in this issue. Her quick action to rescue her husband when Kal-El informed her of Jor-El's capture showcased her determination and resourcefulness. More than just one of Krypton's brightest minds, Lara proved herself a fearless warrior who even the Science League struggled to oppose. Her daring jailbreak of Jor-El, aided by Krypto, also served to highlight the advanced tech suit later used by Absolute Superman in the present timeline. Through Lara's use of the suit, readers were given a clear understanding of its extraordinary capabilities. This exploration clarified why this iteration of Superman's powers feel distinct and added deeper significance to his entire costume, beyond just the iconic symbol on his chest. The event also escalated Jor-El and Lara's secret efforts to construct a spaceship to flee Krypton. In an unexpected twist, we, along with Kal-El, discovered that their ship was designed not just for their family, but also to save neighbors and as many Kryptonians as possible. This revealed Jor-El and Lara as true rebels, standing in stark opposition to the Science League, which remained focused solely on preserving Krypton's elite. This revelation serves as a compelling lead-in, sparking curiosity about Krypton's final day and whether any others besides Kal-El managed to escape the planet's doom. The setup paid off brilliantly in the gripping conclusion of this issue. Just when it seemed we wouldn't get much more about Earth's connection, the story cut to a disoriented Martha Kent in a retirement home. What grabbed attention even more than Martha's sudden appearance was the photograph on her bedside table, seemingly of Kal-El. This raises intriguing questions about Kal-El's Earth history and what lies ahead. Rafa Sandoval once again delivered breathtaking visuals throughout the issue. His depiction of Krypton offered a fresh, imaginative aesthetic. The planet's culture and technology felt completely alien, standing apart from anything on Earth. This distinct portrayal of Krypton enriched the narrative, making the decisions by the House of El even more poignant as the countdown to the planet's destruction intensified. This extended time on Krypton expanded the mythology, shaping the absolute universe into something truly unique. Lara El, in particular, shown as a formidable figure, with her and Jor-El's efforts to protect their family, gives this issue an exciting twist. This twist heightens the anticipation for the inevitable, tragic fate of Krypton. Absolute Superman is being hunted, but why? The Peacemakers see him as a threat, and the Omega Men claim to be his allies. But can they really be trusted? This issue continues the story of an alternate version of Superman in the Absolute Universe, a reality shaped by Darkseid's influence. After the Lazarus Corporation's devastating attack in Brazil, Agent Lois Lane is determined to track down Superman. The story opens with Lois working to earn the trust of those who have crossed paths with Superman, hoping to frame him as someone who needs her intervention, both to prevent harm to himself and to protect others. One of these individuals is a young Egyptian woman, a survivor of abuse at the hands of the so-called Peacemakers, a group operating under Lois's command. Lois takes justice into her own hands, beating the abusing Peacemaker, followed by tasing him directly in the mouth before snapping his fingers. She then walks away like a boss, casually informing the man that he is now under arrest. The narrative shifts back to the people Lois previously interviewed, as they reflect on how their interactions with Superman profoundly altered their lives and beliefs. The abused Egyptian woman confesses a deep fear that the Lazarus Corporation will push Superman into such uncontrollable fury that he will destroy them all, something she secretly prays for. Next, we find Lois standing amid the wreckage of Orangi Town, Pakistan, still searching for Superman, only to be interrupted by a call from her father, General Lane. He's furious that she no longer wants the Peacemakers accompanying her on the mission to capture Superman. Lois firmly states that their presence only worsens the situation, repeatedly breaking the trust of the very people whose cooperation she needs. During their tense exchange, General Lane also introduces the Omega Men, whom he labels as terrorists, though his reasoning for doing so remains unclear. Later, we see Lois Lane resuming her search for Superman, unaware that two mysterious figures are secretly watching her every move. The scene shifts to a peacemaker known as Smith, who is undergoing therapy after indiscriminately opening fire on bystanders during a chaotic confrontation where Superman had taken down several peacemakers. The Brainiac AI attempts to manipulate the narrative, reframing the incident as an unfortunate accident, something that deeply unsettles Peacemaker Smith. During her search, Lois ends up face-to-face with one of the individuals who had been tailing her. He reveals himself as a member of the Omega Men and tries to persuade her that Lazarus is a malevolent organization. Before she can fully react, he turns the tables on her, momentarily blinding her. But Lois quickly recovers and fights back, regaining control of the situation. However, he counters with a swift move, holding her at gunpoint while continuing his argument that Lazarus is responsible for the widespread suffering around the world. At that moment, his ally, Omega Prime, suddenly appears and opens fire on Lois. Hearing the distant gunshots, the Peacemakers spring into action, with Peacemaker Smith taking the lead as they rush toward Lois's location. Amid the gunfire exchange, Lois commands Brainiac to switch their weapons to non-lethal rounds, but the AI blatantly disregards her order. Then, in an instant, her gun is sliced clean in half. Standing before her is Omega Prime, wielding a sword infused with raw energy, ready to engage Lois in close combat. In an unexpected twist, the other Omega member arrives and turns his weapon, not on Lois, but on Omega Prime. Before anyone can process what's happening, Superman arrives with such overwhelming force that the Omega Men are sent hurtling backward. In the background, a shadowy figure takes shape. It's Superman, hovering silently in the air. Then, with an earth-shattering impact, he lands. The sheer force of it cracking the concrete beneath him. Omega Prime desperately urges Superman to join her, insisting that the Omega Men are on his side in the fight against Lazarus. But with a mere flick of his hand, he sends her flying backward. Angrily, Superman warns Lois to stop chasing after him, just as the Peacemakers, with weapons drawn, closes in. Before they can pull the trigger, he unleashes a powerful blast of his super breath, instantly encasing the Peacemakers in ice. Lois calls out, trying to stop him from leaving, but without a word, Superman takes off into the sky. Later, Omega Prime confronts the other Omega member, who is revealed to be Jimmy Olsen, questioning his loyalty after he deliberately chose not to shoot Lois when he had the chance. Jimmy calmly replies that in time, he believes Lois will come to understand their cause and see the truth the way the Omega Men do. In the final panel, Peacemaker Smith stands trembling, his expression wild and unhinged as someone orders him to stand down. We also hear commands to disarm him and place him in restraints, a sign he has done something terribly wrong. It turns out Peacemaker Smith is deeply rattled, convinced that the bystanders were mocking them while they were frozen by Superman's attack. The full panel zooms out, revealing a horrifying scene, a massacre. It appears that Peacemaker Smith, in a blind frenzy, has gunned down every single bystander, an act that could push Superman into a violent, vengeful rage in the next issue. I have to say, Absolute Superman continues to be one of the greatest comic series in recent years. What do you think about this issue? Share your thoughts in the comments below. The issue starts with Jor-El battling fiercely against Law Guild enforcers, buying time for his family as chaos erupts around them. With urgency, he yells for Kal-El to run, trying to push him towards safety while the shock troops lay siege to their home. Young Kal fights back, but his older self, narrating the memory, knows now that there was never a real chance of escape. The brutal reality of Krypton's collapse is clear. No sanctuary, no mercy, only destruction. His words carry the weight of hindsight, filled with sorrow and the bitter understanding that their fight was always doomed. As his planet crumbles, Jor-El and his family cling to hope inside a desperate escape vehicle, bracing against the chaos outside. Jor-El's machine, built to ferry Kryptonians to safety, becomes a moving battleground as enforcers storm the streets, trying to prevent their exodus. Flames and destruction consume the city behind them, with desperate refugees packed inside, unsure of their destination, only knowing they must leave. Kal-El recalls the heartbreaking images of his dying home, forced to watch it collapse while they flee. In his parents' hearts, they know there is no true escape, only survival, if they are lucky. As Krypton's end looms, Jor-El frantically tries to reconfigure their escape vessel, desperate to save just one more life. Lara gently reminds him of reality. There's only so much space for the evacuees, and further adjustments could jeopardize the integrity of the ship. But Jor-El struggles to accept it, haunted by the faces of friends, neighbors, and loved ones they are forced to leave behind. The weight of their sacrifice is unbearable, knowing that countless Kryptonians will perish while they flee. With heavy hearts, they acknowledge the painful truth. This is all they can do, even if it will never feel like enough. As Jor-El and Lara share a final, heartbreaking moment, they try to reassure themselves that their desperate efforts will have to be enough. Kal-El watches, rage and sorrow swirling within him as he witnesses his parents' pain and the destruction of his world. With his loyal companion by his side, he silently vows that their suffering will not be in vain. Standing before the fiery, crumbling remains of his planet, he makes a promise: to build something greater, to ensure no one else endures what his people have. No matter what it takes, he will create a better world than the one he is leaving behind. At a heavily fortified Peacemaker outpost in Pakistan, panic spreads as their soldiers brace for Kal-El's arrival. Tanks and troops scramble to hold their ground, their voices laced with fear as they question how they can possibly stop what's coming. With a desperate command, they open fire, unleashing a barrage of heavy artillery in a futile attempt to halt the unstoppable. Explosions light up the battlefield, but it's clear their firepower is meaningless against the force bearing down on them. Chaos erupts as destruction rips through their ranks, signaling the beginning of Kal-El's relentless retaliation. We transition to the present where inside the Peacemaker outpost, soldiers scramble for control, desperately seeking the status of their tank division, only to be met with screams of destruction. As they ready their weapons, tension fills the air, their orders clear. Fire the moment they see him. But before they can react, a blinding blast tears through their ranks, sending bodies flying in agony. And then he arrives, Kal-El, standing amidst the flames, his eyes burning with raw, unrelenting fury. The soldiers who once mocked him now writhe in terror, and as his heat vision glows, his chilling words seal their fate as he ominously says, "No one is laughing now." Fueled by fury, Kal-El storms through the Peacemaker facility, demanding answers from his AI, Soul, as he searches for his target. Enraged, he interrogates a terrified soldier, demanding to know the whereabouts of Christopher Smith, the man responsible for the deaths of 23 innocent people. The soldier stammers in fear, insisting he doesn't know. But Kal-El's wrath is unstoppable, his rage boiling like the lava that once swallowed his home planet. Kal-El proclaims he is no longer helpless. He is the fury of billions. As the soldier begs for his life, Kal-El's burning gaze offers no mercy. As he tears through the Peacemaker stronghold, Soul works to break through their encrypted systems, warning that an unknown entity, Brainiac, is attempting to infiltrate as well. Amid the wreckage of fallen soldiers, Kal-El advances, his gaze locked on his next move. Saul locates Brainiac, who's operating from a research facility in the Nevada desert. He tells Kal that Brainiac wants to speak to him, and is also offering the whereabouts of Smith. As Krypton's final moments unfold, chaos erupts in the Redlands, with desperate families rushing to board Jor-El's ship before it's too late. The soon-to-be passengers are informed to bond with the ship as it will become their spacesuit. Amid the frenzy, young Kal-El kneels on the ground, his loyal companion beside him, staring at the red dust slipping through his fingers. The weight of his planet's destruction settles in. He has always known this was coming, but now, confronted with the reality, the grief is overwhelming. Holding the ashes of his home, he quietly says goodbye, already wondering what awaits him beyond the stars. As chaos engulfs Krypton, young Kal-El is thrown over the edge of the crumbling ship, grasping desperately as the fiery destruction swallows everything around him. His parents scream his name in terror, reaching for him, their faces frozen in fear and desperation. In the collapse, Kal-El fights to hold on, his eyes wide with the sheer horror of the moment. Meanwhile, the Kal-El of the present, narrating these memories, finds comfort in believing that even in those final moments, there were others. People choosing love, choosing to help, choosing each other. He clings to the hope that somewhere in the universe, kindness still prevails. His loyal dog Krypto reaches out, snaring Kal-El's jacket collar, saving him at the last minute. As Kal-El reflects on the past, he recalls the desperate struggle within Kandor, where the powerless clashed with the enforcers of a crumbling society. Amidst the chaos, Jor-El fights to hold back the tide, urging his people to flee, even as Krypton's elite secretly prepare to abandon the dying world. The Science Guild had spent years hoarding their knowledge, and Kal-El wonders, what could Krypton have achieved if they had chosen to work together instead of remaining divided? More could have been saved, no doubt, if only unity had come sooner. But as he watches the desperate flood of people crowding into ships, he knows that for most, salvation never came. As Krypton crumbles in fire and chaos, Kal-El remembers the final, devastating truth. Not a single ship from the cities managed to escape that day. Explosions rip through the skyline, tearing apart desperate vessels before they can break free, leaving no survivors among those who clung to hope. Not a one. The world beneath him fractures, swallowed by green energy and destruction, a planet devouring itself in its last violent moments. But amidst the ruin, one ship does rise, not from the cities at least, as Kal-El, his family, and the few who made it aboard depart their home forever. Aboard the fleeing ship, grief and fear grip the survivors as they leave their dying world behind. But for young Kal-El, something unexpected happens. A profound calm washes over him, unlike anything he had ever known. As he reassures another child, telling her the ship is the best ever built, a quiet confidence awakens within him. He sees his parents work in the vessel that carries them, and for the first time since Krypton's collapse, he feels something different: hope. And then, as fast as a bullet fired from a gun, their journey encounters disaster. Just as hope had finally taken root, it's suddenly ripped from them. A violent explosion rips through the rescue ship as shattered fragments of Krypton slam into it, sending the vessel into chaos. Metal crumbles, bodies are thrown into the void, and the fragile salvation they clung to is obliterated in an instant. Kal-El is hurled from the wreckage, his screams lost in the deafening destruction around him. But as he tumbles through the debris of his shattered world, Soul's voice cuts through the terror. "Do not be afraid, Kal-El. Your exploratory spacesuit will protect you." As the survivors hurtle through the wreckage of their dying world, their suits transform into sleek flying vessels, carrying them away from the destruction. "I will protect you," Soul repeats, a promise against the chaos unfolding around them. Inside his craft, Kal-El frantically calls out for Krypto and his parents, desperate to know if they survived. But his relief is short-lived. Explosions erupt around him as more escapees are struck down by Krypton's fractured remains. Then, through the fear, his parents appear before him, offering reassurance in the void. Kal-El narrates that for 10 billion years, Krypton thrived beneath the searing red light of its sun, a world vast and enduring. But in its final age, it had become infested. Tiny creatures burrowed into its star-hardened skin, eviscerating it piece by piece. Krypton's insides rotted, its once mighty lungs wheezing out radioactive bile, its fate sealed long before the final explosion. 10 billion years, my homeworld stubbornly endured. And in the end, it wasn't time or nature that doomed it. It only took a few greedy million to ruin it all. As Kal-El and the remaining survivors ascend into the void, Krypton's death reaches its climax. No matter the history, no matter the wisdom, no matter the love, it can all be erased in an instant. The planet collapses upon itself, its core rupturing into a violent final explosion. Every last spark of it gone. And as the shockwave spreads across the blackness of space, Kal-El is propelled forward, streaking away from the only home he's ever known, in an instant. Drifting through the vast emptiness of space, Kal-El stares in horror at the glowing, floating pieces of his planet. His parents, gone. His voice cracks with desperation as he screams for them, for anyone. But only silence answers. Strapped into his escape pod, nothing hurts more than the crushing loneliness settling in. "Can anyone hear me?" His final cry echoes into the void, lost among the shattered remains of Krypton as he speeds further and further away, alone. In the present day, on a desolate place on Earth, Kal-El lands with a powerful force. Soul tries to reason with him on tracking down Christopher Smith, but Kal dismisses the AI as Kal doesn't want to know where he's hiding, because if he knew, he wouldn't be able to stop himself. His fists clench as he admits the truth. He's afraid. Not of Lazarus, not of Brainiac, but of what he might do if he finally gets his hands on them. Walking in solitude, his cape trailing behind him, he lets the weight of his past consume him once more as he tells Soul that he just needs to be reminded of something. Soul's voice cuts through the silence. "Reminded of what, Kal-El?" Kal-El responds, "Home." With his cape billowing behind him, Kal-El stands before a worn roadside sign. Smallville, Kansas, 10 miles ahead. Its motto translated is, "Through hardship to the stars." He gazes forward, lost in thought. After everything, the destruction, the rage, the unbearable grief, his journey has led him here. I firmly believe that Absolute Superman is the best comic series released in recent years, arriving at the perfect moment. Absolute Superman issue 5 continues the journey of a variant Superman within the Absolute Universe, shaped by Darkseid's influence. Crafted by the powerhouse team of writer Jason Aaron, artist Rafa Sandoval, and colorist Ulises Arreola, this reimagining of the Man of Steel is both a visual spectacle and a deeply resonant narrative. Centered on Kal-El's final moments on Krypton, this issue delivers action, heart, and a beautifully reflective perspective on Absolute Superman.